Episode 15 opens with a fitness test because when you have to deal with giant monsters on a regular basis, you need to get into your Shinkalion quickly. Hayato is apparently coming down with something because, of course, watching TV barely dressed and barely dried off from a bath isn't the way to go. It's getting colder, so this is a bad idea. Speaking of cold, let's go to Hokkaido. It just so happens that the villains are there. While Suzaku wants to make weaknesses and strike, Byako wants to prod and test the limits of human imagination. Then we meet Hatsune Miku. More on her later. What's interesting about this giant monstrous being is that it's willing to change the environment in order to control the narrative, control the fight. But first, Rin, Len, and Luca get cameos, as do Meiko and Kaito. Basically, the boys aren't going to make it in time. After all, they're not in Hokkaido. They're like 4 hours away from Hokkaido, so they call in a favor from someone. The Hokkaido driver is Hatsune Miku. Naturally, being an elementary school boys show, they are pretty shocked that the driver is a girl. Miku reacts as expected. Time to see what the H5 is. The H5 is similar to the E5, everything down to the sword unit. However, H5 is built specifically for cold environments. The heating unit is pointed out in the episode because Miku uses it to heat up the sword and uses it to strike the wires. We get allusions to Miku's motion sickness as her vision blurs during the fight. However, the boys arrive. They have difficulty fighting on unequal footing because they're on a web and not, solid ground. Miku complains that the boys are bumbling here and proceeds to one-shot the villain. Saranuki complains about how they didn't do crap, and Miku is generally dismissive of the boys. It's comparable to Ryuji's dismissiveness. She also says the worst possible thing to Hokkaido. She's not interested in a Shinkansen, she's just interested in doing her duty, being a bit of a loner. We also get a bit of history for Hokkaido. Before the train tunnel beneath the sea existed to connect the train lines to the rest of Japan, they had to use ferries to get through Hokkaido. That tunnel only opened up in 1988, so the grand scheme of things, that's pretty recent. Miku apparently practices kendo on the museum ship. Her attitude is actually a bit different from Ryuji. Ryuji doesn't want the boys to actually fight because he believes that he should be the only one fighting since he's older. Miku, on the other hand, takes the job seriously and criticizes the boys for going sightseeing rather than practicing anything. It makes sense considering that they're all the same age. This is probably why she's practicing kendo in the middle of the cold. Perhaps she wants to find ways to keep her precision as a swordsman despite the cold numbing you and making her less precise. This is actually interesting. I like that Ryuji is the one that Octa brings up and not Shinobu when it comes to talented drivers, mainly because they do have similar attitudes. Also, if you think Hayato is looking sick here, it's because he's getting sick. Anyways, villain time. Giant Monstrous Being is back with some upgrades, including refrigeration capabilities. Hayato getting sick on the job pisses off Miku. While Hayato is dragged to the infirmary, the rest go after the monster. I do like that unlike Ryuji, she's willing to work as a team so long as they are actually useful on the job, as opposed to Ryuji, who is sort of just a loner throughout the whole thing. The web on this one is a bit stranger and stronger, and more intelligent, because this knocks Octa from solid ground into the web and disarms him in the process, and then ropes up both the E6 and the E7. And to make matters worse, the monster attempts to freeze the boys alive. Miku's attempts to handle this on her own are a bit of a problem. The Shinkalion is designed for cold environment, but she's not designed for the Shinkalion. What do I mean like that? She gets motion sick very easily. It's pretty obvious that her distaste for the boys comes from how she does feel inadequate about getting motion sick so easily, even taking pills, and despite that, she still can't force herself in order to get over the motion sickness, so her remarks to Hayato about not looking after his health is pretty clearly projection. To make matters worse, the Shinkalions are being drained of their energy, and considering that the monster has a refrigeration unit, this is pretty clearly to drain them dry of any life support systems and then freeze them alive. Sheesh, talk about harsh. Ryuji and Shinobu can't be called because of the weather delays earlier mentioned in the episode. Commander Izumi really should get a promotion. He should be called Admiral Izumi, because this is a trap. Miku then gives Hayato booze. Okay, it's not booze. The alcohol in the eggnog got boiled away, but let me have this joke. Miku wants Hayato to take her spot and have him drive VH5. After all, VH5 is just a modified E5 for colder environments. Hayato refuses, saying that she's VH5 driver, not him. Instead, he has his own plan: send both of them, sickened and weak, into battle. This works since Miku tries to ignore her motion sickness and focus only on the battle, able to use VH5's heating system to heat up the wires themselves, being made out of metal, and breaks them. The two then work to slash through the monster. The episode ends with Hayato going on about the Shinkansen to Miku, though Miku doesn't seem to mind this time. These two episodes are honestly great. I enjoy Miku's presence here because I'm a sucker for her type of character. A person who appears to be obscenely dedicated to bitter work, but in reality is just really insecure and horrified at the idea of being someone's inferior. So she projects her insecurities onto Hayato and the other drivers. I do get the feeling that Miku was written as a completely different character before Hatsune Miku's image and voice was imposed on her. At first I thought the Vocaloid filter, and yes, it's a filter she has since she has an actual actress, than just stringing the vocal snippets together. I thought that was a bit distracting at first, but I got used to it. Though, I don't think that it undercuts the dramatic moments at all, except when she screams. I do enjoy that she's more than just female Ryuji. Ryuji has his own issues, but Miku pretty much stands out despite having very similar demeanors at first. In terms of the plot, I'm sort of annoyed that Hayato is basically forced back into action via eggnog. I mean, I guess the eggnog is good, but I don't think it's that good. I honestly preferred him if he was sneezing and acting very delirious, looking a lot like Miku with motion sickness during the battle scenes rather than what we got. But those are just my thoughts on the episodes. Please consider liking, subscribing, tipping the channel on Ko-fi. This is Cyril signing off.